Okay. Goddess al-Uzzā, from a beautiful goddess to a black demon. Uzzā is one of the famous Arabian goddesses in pre-Islamic period, whose name is explicitly mentioned even in the Quran due to her importance. In the Islamic tradition and the reports that talk about her fate or the story of her destruction, new characteristics are described for Uzzā, which have no precedent in pre-Islamic evidence. Even in other Islamic reports or verses of the Quran, no sign of these characteristics can be found. According to these reports, at the time of her death, Uzzā manifested or appeared in front of everyone's eyes in a human form. That was an old man with a black face and disheveled hair, something like a witch or sorceress. Then she was brutally killed by Islamic soldiers. This manifestation is confirmed by the confirmation of the Prophet Muhammad at the end of these reports, which informs about the eternal destruction of Uzzā by killing these women. It is obvious that this manifestation is imaginary or fake and not real. But what is important to me here is what is the origin of such a forgery and invention, especially her black color and her demonic nature. What are the Muslims writers trying to say with such forgeries? Before embarking on the discussion, let me begin with an introduction of pre-Islamic statues of al-Uzzā. As noted in Islamic sources, Uzzā was the major goddess of Quraysh, the tribe of the Prophet Muhammad, who began to be worshipped after the other two goddesses, l-Lāt and Manāt. Because of the importance, her name appeared explicitly in the Quran, of course, along with two other deities, l-Lāt and Manāt, in Surah An-Najm. The main temple of Uzzā was located in the valley of Quraysh in Nakhlat al-Shamiyah near Mecca on the way to Iraq. According to some sources, al-Uzzā surpassed the other two goddesses due to her statues, turning into the main deity of Arabs to the extent that l-Lāt and Manāt came to be known as her daughters. According to sundry Islamic evidence, there were different rituals associated with Uzzā, such as Hajj ritual and its relevant rites, including circumambulation, the talbiyah, sacrifice, and etc. Even practices such as endowments, vows, and etikaf, meaning staying in the shrine for several days, were done for her, just like Allah, the main God of the Quran. According to Muhammad ibn Hisham al-Kalbi, even the Prophet himself sacrificed a sheep for Uzzā when he was young. It is an interesting point. Before the emergence of Islam, a popular name among Arabs was Abdul Uzzā, the servant of Uzzā, which was the original polytheistic name of well-known figures such as Abu Bakr, Abu Lahab, and others. In some pre-Islamic poems, Uzzā is described as a goddess of beauty, an attractive and seductive woman who enchanted men. It is mentioned in Islamic sources that in the Battle of Uhud, Abu Sufyan, one of the leaders of the polytheists in pre-Islamic Arabs, carried the flag and symbol of Uzzā with himself as a sign of honor, and in this way encouraged his soldiers to fight and kill Muslims. It is interesting that at the end of this war, Uzzā won over Allah, and so the forces of Islam were defeated. In addition to these, there are various stories in Islamic sources that show the high statues of Uzzā among pagans and reveal her popularity among her believers. On the 25th of the month of Ramadan, in the 8th year after Hijrah, after the conquest of Mecca, the Prophet Muhammad sent his companions to destroy the shrines and idols of the pagans. Khalid ibn Walid, one of the elders of Quraysh, was sent to destroy Uzzā, and then he went to Nakhlat al-Shamiyah. The details of this incident were narrated by Kalbi, died in 105th AH, and he wrote in Al-Asnam, that is the most important book about the deities of the Quraysh, that Al-Uzzā was a female devil, Shaytana, who used to frequent 3 trees in the valley of Nakhla. When the Prophet captured Mecca, he dispatched Khalid ibn Walid, saying, "Go to the valley of Nakhla. There you will find 3 trees. Cut down the first one." Khalid went and cut it down. On his return to report the event, the Prophet asked him, "Have you seen anything there?" Khalid answered, "No." The Prophet ordered him to return and cut down the second tree. He went and cut it down. On his return to report, the Prophet asked him a second time, "Have you seen anything there?" Khalid answered, "No." Thereupon the Prophet ordered him to go back and cut down the third tree. When Khalid arrived on the scene, he found an Abyssinian woman, in some version Ethiopian, in others Black woman, with disheveled and her hands placed on her shoulders, gnashing and grating her teeth. Behind her had stood Dubayya as-Sulami, who was the custodian of Uzzā. When Dubayya saw Khalid approaching, he said, "Oh Uzzā, remove your veil and tuck up your sleeves. Summon up your strength and deal Khalid a hard blow. If you don't kill her this very day, you shall be doomed to ignominy or become a Christian." Khalid answered, "Oh Al-Uzzā, may you be blasphemed, not exalted. Verily, I see that Allah has abased you." Turning to the woman, Khalid dealt her a blow that severed her head in twain, and lo, she was crumbled into ashes. Khalid then cut down the three and killed Dubayya, the custodian, after which he returned to the Prophet and reported to him his exploits. Prophet said, "That was Uzzā, but she is no more. The Arabs shall have known after her. Verily, she shall never be worshipped again." Islamic sources, as well as many early Islamic sources, as well as many later sources, have quoted this report. Important writers such as Ibn Hisham, Azraqi, Al-Waqidi, Ibn Asakir, Ibn Sa'd, Yaqut al-Hamawi, and others. According to the contents of this report, it seems that the main focus of these writers is on the representation of Uzzā in the form of a woman with a demonic nature on the one hand, and on the other hand, on her black color. These two matters have no precedent anywhere, and so far no one has been able to find a sign of them other than the reports of her destruction. Therefore, one should ask, where is the origins of this manifestation, this demonic nature, this black color, and basically the origin of the forgery of such an event? Why are these characteristics only seen in the narratives of the destruction of Uzzā? What points are these reports trying to tell? By assessing the ancient traditions common in the region, it seems that the Islamic traditions were influenced by neighboring cultures, especially the Christians of the Hellenistic period. In the surviving texts of early Christian, the deities of other religions, especially the ancient Roman and Greek ones, were all described as satanic, evil, or demonic beings appearing at the destruction of their idols and temples in a black and disturbing face. Indeed, the adherents of Christianity saw themselves entirely in light and described their opponents entirely in darkness and misguidance, although in reality, they were not so, and they had a degree of monotheism. I will mention some examples of them given by Franz Joseph Bulger, a contemporary German Christian theologian and historian. One, according to the report of Theodoret, a Christian historian and bishop who lived in the 4th century AD, when the temple of Zeus in Epiphaima, a city in ancient Syria, was destroyed in 64 BC, a black demon appeared. This demon sought to extinguish the fire that was destroying the shrine. In one of the Nestorian texts from the 5th century AD in Greece, Satan is shown as an Abyssinian or Ethiopian and a black creature. Latin tradition calls him immensely great Egyptian, blacker than soot. And 3, according to the report of Bishop of Milan, Geronitus, who died in the 5th century, and Saint Melania died in the 410 AD, perceived Satan in the form of a young Abyssinian woman with a tribal appearance. In analyzing this evidence and others in Christian sources, Bulger writes that the devils are the gods and goddesses of the enemies and opponents who appeared in the form of Abyssinian or Ethiopian or in general as black demons. As a matter of fact, the natural feeling of people wants to depict evil spirits with black color and black skin, because the essence and spirit of darkness can be seen better in it. Bulger adds that this rule does not apply to the Egyptians or the Abyssinians themselves, and they depict their gods not evil spirits and demons, but in their own form and as black as themselves. Therefore, it seems that the discussed Islamic reports are influenced by the common beliefs in the region, and especially Christian beliefs. That is, the earliest Muslims, inspired by Christian beliefs, linked the goddess Uzzā, who was the most powerful and important goddess of the Quraysh, with a black woman in order to show the failure of the authority of this community, in addition to demonizing the identity of the pagans' deity as a polemic approach. In this way, the ground of their activity so their deities would be suppressed forever, as the early Christians removed their rivals with this trick or technique. Thank you very much.